Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, a lot of news, a lot of topics I want to discuss today. But this one, a hat tip to the New York Post. They're the ones who broke this story. And it's an unbelievable story. Again, look it up yourself, because I'm telling you, you're not going to believe me. There is now a growing trend in many blue states. Now, this one is based in New Jersey, but you're seeing it now in blue state after blue state, in which now politicians want to hold parents directly accountable, and I mean by accountable, going to jail for crimes or offenses committed by their kids. So listen now to this. This is from Gloucester Township. It is about 8-9 miles away from Philadelphia, but technically it is in New Jersey. And they have now just passed a new law. By the way, and this law is based off of other laws on the Jersey Shore, in Wildwood, but this is now the biggest town to have adopted this law, whereby, I kid you not, if your child, it's called, by the way, it's called minors and parent responsibility. Okay, that's the law. That it stipulates that parents will be held, quote unquote, accountable for public disturbances caused by their child. And according to the law, if their kids are found guilty of multiple offenses, yes, mommy and daddy or one or the other could go to jail for up to 3 months, 90 days, and or pay a $2,000 fine. Now, you're going to say, Jeff, what the hell? Something must have happened to trigger these lunatics up in Gloucester Township to pass a draconian, to me, how this is going to survive pass constitutional muster. How this is going to survive a court challenge is beyond me, but let that go. What the hell happened? Well, apparently, last year, a massive brawl broke out. There was about 500 teens, youths, as they call them, minors, at what's called the Gloucester Township Day and Drone Show. And apparently it was bedlam. So there was a massive brawl. There were fights. Apparently 11 people, including 9 teenagers, were arrested. 3 officers were injured. And so they said, you know what? We got a problem now with teenage crime, with teenage fighting, teenage violence, teenage behavior is out of control. And so they now recategorized or reclassified many juvenile offenses. And under that, they say, there's about 28 of them in total, that no. If they're arrested or convicted of any of these 28 juvenile offenses, mommy and daddy will pay the price as well. At least one legal guardian is going to have to go to prison as well. And apparently listen to this. So if your child, your 15, 16-year-old teenager, apparently if they're arrested and convicted of, quote, being a disorderly person. Another one, this one is a doozy. Immorality. What the hell is immorality? Like, forgive me, what, having sex in the park? Like, I'm sorry, what is immorality? Like what, smoking up marijuana in public? I mean, what's immorality? Anyway, immorality, destruction of playground equipment, loitering, along with more traditional offenses like assault, mugging, drunkenness, and drug dealing. So, according to the Gloucester Township Police, this is what they said in a press release clarifying this new law. Quote, if a child is repeatedly found guilty in juvenile court, their caretaker, i.e. mommy or daddy, could face up to 90 days in prison and or a fine of up to $2,000. Now, they're saying that, A, they have a problem with teenagers and minors committing crimes. They want to now hold the parents responsible for what they say is bad parenting. They also now believe that by enacting this law, that this is going to act as a very powerful deterrent, because now the parents are going to be forced to really rein in their children and to watch their children, to oversee their children, to discipline and parent their children. So they believe this is going to provide a massive incentive now for parents to control and restrain their teenage kids. Now, maybe in theory, this sounds like a good idea, but let me tell you, and you may disagree with me on this, but in practice, this to me is, you want to talk about authoritarianism. You want to talk about a draconian law that strikes at the very heart of parental autonomy and parental rights. This is it. This clearly is it. Now, let's just start with the obvious. It violates the fundamental principle upon which not just Anglo-American law, but really Western civilization, the law of the basic legal basis of Western civilization. You're responsible for your actions. You're not responsible for someone else's actions. You could raise 3, 4, 5 kids, and 4 of them could be wonderful, and one of them, for whatever reason, is a constant troublemaker. That's not your fault as a parent. Now, as I said in the pre-show video that we always put out on X and other places, on Instagram, I always do a quick 30 to 40 second hit to talk about what I'm going to be doing on the show today. I said, so let me get this straight. My Ashton, I mean, he's 15 now. He's a very good boy. Don't get me wrong. But say my Ashton decides to, have a couple of beers, which is illegal, in public, become publicly intoxicated. Now, if that ever happened, believe me, he wouldn't want to come home because daddy wouldn't be happy, okay? He'd hear it from both mommy and daddy. But my point is, say he gets, he's public drunkenness. He gets intoxicated. Suddenly now, I'm going to go to jail for 90 days? Say he and his friends, not that he would ever do this, again, he's a good kid, but they, bust up a playground or think it's funny to write some graffiti on school walls or on some car or a teacher they don't like, and all of a sudden now I'm out $2,000. All of a sudden now I'm staring at 60 to 90 days in jail. This is insane. No, really, this is insane. So it's grossly unfair. That's number one. Number two, look what it now does to the parent. You're taking away my rights to raise my child the way I see fit. And you're making me responsible for every bad decision that my child makes. Now, and then think of the consequences of this. Because again, in theory, it sounds, well, the parents will be forced to be more involved. They'll have to watch over their kids more. They'll have to probably discipline their kids more. Okay, fine. In theory, maybe but it may work. But think about it now in reality, practically. I've got 2 kids, personally. I've got Ashton and Ava. Others have 3 kids, 4 kids. If I end up going to jail, or my wife ends up going to jail, what does that mean? Who's going to work? Who's going to pay the mortgage? Who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to be around to parent the other children? So what you're doing is, you're hurting the child, the one that's committing these crimes, because mommy and daddy now are in prison, and they're probably lost their job, and they've got a criminal record, and they can't, pay for they can't pay for electricity, food, shelter, you name it. But you're also punishing the other children because now they don't have a mom and dad, because suddenly now you've turned mom and dad into a convict. You've put mom and dad in jail. You see what a disaster this is going to be? Now, I understand. I do. It's teen violence is out of control. We talked about that yesterday with what's happening in Washington, D.C. and Cincinnati and in New York and here in Boston and in Chicago and other places like that. I get it. But the answer is not to go after the parents and put them in jail. The answer is A, confront family breakdown, which is a root cause of this. You don't have a father in the home, and frankly, very lax parenting, but that's up to the parents. But the bigger issue, here, take Gloucester Township. They pulled back on the police. They pulled back on the police after the George Floyd riots of 2020. Black Lives Matter. They defunded the police. They pulled back the police. When you have huge events where there's a lot of teenagers, the police are not able to come in and act as a deterrent or go after and aggressively police teenagers. No, they're told your hands are tied. You can't do anything. So why don't you empower the police? 617-266-6868 is the number. Just a lot of reaction from the audience. It's, barely 20 minutes into the show. A lot of you, and it's 50-50. Many of you agree with this law in Gloucester Township and other laws like it that are now spreading across the country. And many of you disagree with it. So I'd love to get to the phone lines as soon as possible. Please call in the moment they're loaded. I want to take this to the audience and ask all of you. There's a couple lines open now, 617-266-6868. And it's very simple. Should parents be held liable? Whether, prison sentence, a 90-day stint in jail, or a $2,000 fine, should they be jailed or fined if their kids break the law? And I don't mean when they're adults. I mean as minors, 15, 16, 17 years old. In Gloucester Township and now other towns in New Jersey and in other states, the answer now is yes. You're going to get jailed. Now, to be fair, it's not one offense. It has to be several offenses. And then they will aggressively start putting parents in prison. Now, to me, this is absolutely draconian. It's, to me, the very definition of authoritarianism. It strikes at the very heart of parental authority, parental autonomy, parental rights. But that's me. And the very principle of personal individual responsibility. And so, just to give you an example, and this is very common among teenagers. Hell, my nephews did this. And again, they're good guys. Really, they're good boys. But, they were underage and they would go out and drink with their friends. And they would go to a campground. And, 10, 15 of them would get together and they'd light a nice fire and, the beers were flowing. Now, nothing happened. They said, no, we never were rowdy that the police came and arrested us. But say that the police did. Suddenly now my sister and my brother-in-law are going to be held responsible because they went to a public place and had a campfire, whatever, at a campground and had, too many beers. Because remember, one of the offenses is public drunkenness. So in other words, these teens are drunk in public and they're going to charge them and they're going to convict them. And then they're going to blame the parents. Here, another one, very common. And it was Mike that came up with this idea, and he's right. He's right. Parents go away for vacation, whatever. So he said, Jeff, the better comparison with your son Ashton is what if you and Grace and Ava go on a vacation, couple days, whatever. Ashton doesn't want to go. He's 15, going to be 16 soon. No, I want to stay at home with my friends, Dad. No, I want to play video games, Dad. I'm old enough to take care of the house while you guys are away, Dad. Okay, son, I trust you. And he ends up inviting his friends to the house, and they throw one hell of a party. Woo! And they're jumping in the pool. They're drunk. They're blasting the music. I've seen this, by the way, not at my house, but in a previous, when I was in D.C., the people beside us had a party. They went out onto the street and started drinking beer and yelling and screaming. Anyway, the cops came to calm everything down. But, what if the kids go out onto the street? And they start drinking beer and, and singing and the neighbors call the police. Well, in Gloucester Township, guess what? I come home and suddenly, hi, Mr. Kuhner, slap on the cuffs. I'm like, what the hell just happened here? They go, well, no, public drunkenness. He kept the neighbors up, public intoxication. I mean, I'm sure they can find all kinds of things my son did wrong. So he broke the law. He's been arrested now. He's pled guilty. And guess what? This is his second offense. Now you're going to go to jail for 90 days. Now, as I was telling Mike and Sandy, I'm sorry. Look, I did stupid things as a teenager. Grace did stupid things as a teenager. Teenagers do stupid things. For the most part, it's almost the definition of being a teenager. I know there are some that don't, but they're the exception that proves the rule. Now, you don't get stricter than my father and my mother. I'm telling you. You know, may God bless their souls. You don't get stricter than Grace's mother and dad. Again, God bless their souls. I don't know how much tougher parenting you want. They were strict. They laid down the law. We knew right from wrong. Teenagers are stupid. That's the nature of being a teenager. So, you know, to think that you're just going to now hold parents responsible for the actions of their kids, we are on it's a dangerous precedent. I think it's we're going to rue the day we went down this road. It is a very dangerous slippery slope. And to me, I'm telling you, as a parent, the reaction is going to be just stay home. Like, forget it. I don't need this. Just stay home. Because God knows if something happens, I'm going to be held responsible. Well, kids do need to go out. Kids need to socialize. Kids need to, it's called, you know, they got to live. Doesn't mean you go out and get drunk. It doesn't mean you go out and get stoned. It doesn't mean you assault somebody or mug somebody or have graffiti or wreck up a playground. But what I'm saying is the parents are going to be so petrified that they could be held liable for what their children have done that they're just going to say, stay home, lock them up. Like, basically, this is Saudi Arabia. Is that what we want? I don't think so. So let me ask all of you, should, say, teenagers, your teen gets involved in a big public brawl. Your son or daughter thought it was funny to smoke marijuana, say, on, you know, at a playground late at night. Or they went out and had too many drinks and they were publicly intoxicated. Or they engaged in quote-unquote immorality. Okay, whatever that means. I guess, I don't know what, the backseat of a car. Okay, whatever. You know, someplace in public, at a school or after hours or whatever, at a parking lot after hours. Okay, teenagers doing stupid things. Should you go to jail for 90 days? Should you have to pay a $2,000 fine? And if you're not a parent, if you don't have children, Sandy made an excellent point to me. Would you look at this? Are you looking at this differently? In other words, I know there are many people out there just sick and tired of teen violence, teen misbehavior, teen crime, and many of them say, where are the parents? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, please, Kuhner Country, this is a very, very important issue. It's one of these laws that is now being adopted in states, in townships, in cities, in in towns, all across the country. A little bit here, a little bit there, but it's almost like the advanced guard of what is to come nationally. And so I really want to get the temperature of the audience, all of you, if you can participate and let me know if you think this is a good idea or a bad idea. So the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Should parents be jailed/fined if their kids break the law? Now, just do you understand the context? It's not one crime. It has to be multiple crimes. It's not Jimmy breaks a window, whatever. Jimmy vandalizes something, boom, you're going to go to jail as well. No, Jimmy has to do this several times. Multiple times arrested, multiple times convicted. But still, the principle is, should parents be jailed / fined if their kids break the law? A, yes. And there are a lot of you that are voting yes. B, no. I am a strong no. You may disagree. I'm just giving you my honest opinion. I am a strong no, but I want to hear from you. That's what matters. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in national ER. You can also vote via X. And again, I was active on X last night. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, KUHNER, at the Kuhner Report. Okay, very quickly, because we're getting so much reaction on this. This is a very good text for the other side. This is from 617. You can text the Kuhner Man 70470. 617. Jeff, I'm sorry, but I disagree with you. I think it's a great law, and I hope we see it here in Massachusetts, in cities and towns, and eventually around the country. Teenage violence and teenage crime is out of control. And a lot of it is due, a lot of it is due and goes back to bad parenting. Now parents have an incentive to finally discipline, in caps, their children. If not, they're going to pay the price as well. So there are many of you that agree with this. Mark on Messenger disagrees. I mean, he really disagrees. Jeff, I'm sorry, but please explain to me how this would be a deterrent. Because now a kid that doesn't give a crap, a.k.a. a problem child that has no morals, will now break the law and say to himself, well, I'm not going to get in trouble for it, but my parents will take the rap. It's a stupid idea. It will never work, and ultimately it will never pass. I mean, seriously, Jeff, do they really sit in a room and come up with these asinine policies and ideas? And then Mark adds this. Jeff, can you imagine if this was an actual nationwide law? Laugh out loud. Joe and Jill Biden would be in prison for the rest of their lives. I mean, oh yeah. I mean, Joey, locking up Joey. I mean, he never would have been president. The poor guy would have been in jail his entire life over just Hunter alone. Never mind the other kids. 617. Mr. Biden. No. Yeah, we found Hunter again with his crack pipe. Son of a bee. I just got out of the can, man. I just got out of the slammer. I just got out yesterday. Give me your wrists. Slap them on again. Sorry, you're in for another 90. 90 more days. Heather in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Heather. You're going to kick us off, and welcome.
Hey, Jeffrey, thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I have so much to say about this. First, comment, thank God I don't have children. But I cannot disagree more with the first text that you read. This is the most ridiculous thing. I mean, I've heard different ridiculous things. This is so wrong in so many levels. And I want to know who is the stupid person that thought of this law, because did they even think this through? There's so much that goes into this. Yes. All right. My sister has 3 boys. And the middle one is a teenager. The younger one, the older one's older. He's 25, and the younger one is 8. And the middle one is 17. And now Eric is the sweetest kid you'd ever want to meet. but he's a teenager. So what if he's out with his friends and his friends, and him do something stupid? So my sister's going to get in trouble for that? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And my sister's a very good parent, by the way. This really, there's so many more issues to this than they're trying to put a Band-Aid on it. And it has nothing to do. Yes, it's bad parenting. I will say that. I think it's bad parenting. But a lot of this boils down to mental illness, okay? So you could have the parents that's mentally ill, that really can't be a good parent, are incapable of being a good parent. That's another whole issue. Then we can go down the rabbit hole on that issue. And then the kids, they could, you could have really good parents and have someone that's a psychopath or a kid that has a bad mental illness. And when these kids, these types of mental illness, they don't care about anybody else or the consequences. So the parent could be a good parent and try to parent that kid all they want. But that kid could be a bad seed, I guess you could say. So there's so many issues that go into this, that this is so wrong on so many levels. In theory, I guess, not thinking about it, yeah, somebody who doesn't have a child like me would be like, oh, yeah, let's do that. That sounds great. No, it's the most ridiculous thing. I can't even imagine. I just think of my sister. And with the boys. And I'm like, and they're all, like I said, they're all good kids, but they're Eric's a teenager. You know what I mean? He's going to do stupid things. That's what teenagers do. You know what I mean? It's just wrong. Even the atrocious crimes that those kids did to that kid in D.C. I don't think the parents should suffer for that. Clearly those kids are mentally ill. It comes down to mental. There's so many more things to this.
Heather, you're completely right. Look, there's so many dimensions that's why it's a complex problem. And it defies simple solutions, right? And liberals are always looking for the simplest solution, because to them, they can't, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be insulting, but many of them are very low IQ. It's just a fact. And so it's either gun control, or they want a very simple solution to very complex problems. But, look, we had a very good friend. She was an older African American lady, and she was raising her grandson. Okay, her daughter had a child out of wedlock. Anyway, she was plagued by drug addiction. So this wonderful woman, very dear friend of Grace, she used to work at Howard University. She was one of the staffers there, and she befriended Grace. They became very close friends. We'd have her over to our house all the time. And she had a grandson, and she was the legal guardian of the grandson. And she said in Northeast D.C., which is where they live, there's such a prevalent gang culture and a drug culture and peer pressure. Just was a God-fearing Christian woman. She took this boy to church every Sunday. She raised him right from wrong. And he started to get caught up in the gang lifestyle, the drug lifestyle. And she said, I can't control him. He's 16, 17. He's 6'2", 6'3". So as I was just about finishing with Heather in Rockland, so this was a wonderful woman. She was an elderly African American woman, worked at Howard University, where Grace used to teach for a while. Anyway, we became very good friends with her. She was a grandmother. She basically adopted or took over legal guardianship of her grandson. Her daughter had all kinds of issues. Anyway, long story short, he was fine until about 14, 15 years old. She took him to church every Sunday. She raised him as a God-fearing Christian child in a God-fearing Christian home. She said, look, I taught him right from wrong. I disciplined him. I told him to focus on school, on academics. And then he got involved with a bad group of friends, peer pressure, and then eventually the gang lifestyle, the drug lifestyle. And so, he started coming home at 1, 2, 3 in the morning. She goes, I yelled at him. I hit him on the shoulder. By then he was 6'2", 6'3". He was a big guy. He was a big kid. He goes, it was nothing. My blows against his shoulder just bounced off of him. I yelled and screamed at him, and he just wouldn't listen. He didn't care. So it's not for lack of parenting. It's not for lack of discipline. It's not for lack of care. It's not for lack of effort. And then she said eventually he started to get arrested, obviously. Now, I'm just thinking of this poor woman under that law in New Jersey, in Gloucester Township, and other laws in other towns. Gloucester is now highlighted in this New York Post piece. But this is a trend now that's spreading, especially in blue states, but in states in general, but especially blue states. So I'm thinking you're going to lock up this poor woman for 90 days because she's got an out of control, child, in this case, a grandson, that she's the the caretaker of, the legal guardian of. I'm sorry. It's wrong. It's wrong. Now, you can blame the mother, you can blame, whatever the circumstances, fine. But the point is, how is this woman to blame? I'm just giving you an example. So sometimes you can do the best for your child and they make bad decisions. Teenagers will do stupid things. And to hold the parents responsible legally, financially, that we're talking a $2,000 fine now every time they're convicted, or up to 90 days in jail. I mean, the consequences of this are going to be devastating. This is a very dangerous precedent because now you're saying people aren't responsible for their actions. Other people are responsible for other people's actions. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Okay, this is from Courtney. This is what she wrote me on Messenger just about 10 minutes ago. Jeff, I'm sorry, but you're leaving out some context. The reason they're looking to hold a parent or parents responsible is because some of these parents are teaching their teens to steal cars or whatever, theft, and bring the quote-unquote merch back so they can sell the stuff and the kid won't do any jail time. So how do we deal with those cases? Well, that's a very good point, Courtney. Then they're an accomplice. In other words, if they're encouraging their children to break the law, steal cars, steal merchandise, deal drugs, whatever, well, then they're an accomplice. That's something different. So then they should be held accountable, obviously. But if it's what they're talking about in Gloucester Township, which is, well, the kids are brawling in school, the kids are mouthing off, they're drinking in public, some of them are dealing drugs, there's vandalism, there's graffiti. In other words, we can't control these teenagers. And we believe because the parents aren't being tough enough, so we're going to go after the parents. Well, I'm sorry, you're not God. You don't know what goes on in these homes and what the parents have done and what they haven't done. And honestly, look, as someone who's been a teenager, and all of you, I'm sure you can remember this, peer pressure is huge. Huge. I'll never forget this last point because I want to go to the phone lines. I was in grade 8 going into grade 9. And we had, teacher-parent conferences. And my math teacher, Mr. Hogan, and I never really put it together, but he did. He was talking to my father and my mother, and he said, Jeff's doing great in school. His grades are excellent. I love his attitude. I talk to him a lot. I can see he's also doing well in other classes. He said, but I'll tell you the one thing I'm most impressed with your son. I'm like, oh, really? What? He said, he's in with a good group of friends. He stays away from bad influences and a bad crowd. And I never looked at it that way. To me, they were just my friends. I liked being with these friends. We played football together. We played baseball together. Some of them had a love of comic books that I had a love of. So we shared that as well. But I never looked at it as I'm going with a good crowd, i.e. a crowd that won't get into trouble. They were just my buddies. But when he said it was like a light bulb went off in my head. And I'm like, oh, that's true. None of my buddies ever get into trouble. I mean, a little mischief here or there, but nothing serious. And I thought of other groups in the school where they were already experimenting with drugs. They were drinking. These are only 13, 14-year-old kids. And, they were smashing stuff up. They were vandalizing. You could tell they were starting to go on a bad road. And I was thinking, that is very true. Who you hang out with has a real influence on you. And so that stuck with me. But my point is, peer pressure is immense, immense in middle school, in high school, during those teenage years. And I'm telling you, you talk to the police in Gloucester Township and they'll say, we can't do a thing. We see potential problems. We're handcuffed. Pardon the pun. We can't, we see a fight's about to develop. We can't step in. We see children that we think are misbehaving or whatever. We can't touch them. We can't do anything. And then once they go through the juvenile system, no matter what they do, it's a slap on the wrist. Because the judges won't do anything. They can mug someone. They can assault someone. They can deal drugs. They can punch a teacher. Nothing's going to happen to them. So that's why a lot of these teenagers are out of control. So what now? Because the law won't hold them accountable, you're going to try to force the parents and hold the parents be held accountable? Toughen up the policing and start serious consequences for these juvenile offenders. And believe me, you're not going to have, like last year, 500 people brawling at the Gloucester Township, school day and drone day or whatever it was called. Okay? In other words, bring in the cops, let the cops do what the cops used to do, which is impose law and order. And if you do get arrested, you're going to get the book thrown at you. And you're going to be amazed how 90% of all this disappears. But that's my opinion. John in the great state of Texas, I want to hear from you. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, thank you for letting me bring Texas to the conversation again. Hey, I'm pretty doggone disappointed today in the other 50% that don't agree with you, that are your audience. This is just pretty doggone obvious that this brings our country one step closer to communism. This is, what they do in, let's say, North Korea. If somebody violates the law, they just disappear your whole family. It's really strange that everybody's being psyoped on this. It doesn't stop. Where would this stop? Are you going to hold the grandparents accountable because they didn't teach their parents to raise their kids the right way? Every family's had a black sheep in their family. And nobody knows why. Nobody can explain it. Maybe the youngest kid in the family turns out to be the bad one. But what about the other kids? Are you really going to support locking up your mother and father because one of your children or one of their children goes south while the three others go north? It doesn't make sense. And you took the words right out of my mouth. I think everybody needs to start demanding their legislators to force judges to enforce the consequences that are already on the books. Haven't we learned from our mistakes in this country that when you grow government, when you give them more power, we're supposed to be a group here in this discussion that are for limited government, but yet half of your audience today on this issue wants more power and give more power to the government. And of all states, New Jersey, really, they're going to be a role model for conservative families? I would expect this from the Democrat Party because I see no difference between the Democrat Party of today and the communists of today. It's the same party. It's all in one. So, it's pretty logical to me. Start demanding your legislators, force these judges not to cut these kids a break. Let them, let them face the consequences. And, when you threw the fastball with, what about the father that teaches their son how to steal cars? Well, there's already laws on the books for that, too. That's called an accomplice. It's common sense, y'all. Okay? Quit giving your government more power. When are you going to learn? You almost had Kamala. If we would have had Kamala, can you imagine where this would be going? They would disappear your whole family for your son going out and getting drunk. It just doesn't make sense. And that's why I had to call in, couldn't control my emotions, had to call your number. And, hopefully I made an impact to somebody, and hopefully they'll change their mind.
Well, John, listen, you're a dynamite caller. Look, you're the Texas branch of Kuhner country. So please, you just keep calling in. John, you're on fire today. Absolutely nailed it. John, thank you so much for that call. Let me just quickly throw a very quick log on the fire. And again, tell me if you agree or disagree. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. I think a big part of the problem, yes, it's family breakdown. There's no question. There's not a father in the home. Parenting has changed. A lot of parents are way too lax, way too self-indulgent. They're not enforcing consequences on their children. The way they raise their children, there's no discipline in the home. There's no sense of right and wrong in the home. There's no respect for authority. There's no question. Okay. That's a profound cultural, moral problem that we're now dealing with. But let me just give you an example. When I was growing up, and I think we've really hurt ourselves with this, policing, cops, how they were able and allowed to be police officers. And I'll just give you an example, how this had an effect on my high school. So in Canada, the drinking age is slightly different than the United States. It's not 21, it's 18. But they do enforce it. In other words, okay, it's lower, but it's got to be 18. It's not 16. Well, when I went to high school, everybody wanted to start drinking. And so now we're talking about 15, 16-year-old kids. Okay, not even 18, 19-year-old kids. I mean, and 15, 16-year-olds, they really can't hold their liquor. And so on the football field, this was near the end of the school year. And there was a group of kids, boys and girls or whatever, men and women, male and female. And they brought out a couple of cases of Labatt Blue, okay, which is very big up there in Canada, okay, beer. And they're drinking beer on the football field. They're just lying on the grass, laughing, joking, drinking beer. It's public intoxication. It's against the law. It's underage drinking. It's against the law. It's on school grounds. It's against the law. We had a very good gym teacher. Okay. She happened to be female, but she was a great gym teacher. And the only reason why I'm saying female is because the guys thought they could manhandle her because she wasn't a man. So she came out. She was French Canadian. She, tough woman, smart woman, brave woman. And she confronted them and she started yelling and screaming at them, saying, get off the football field. You're not supposed to be drinking. I'm going to call your parents. And they laughed at her. They literally laughed at her. They were making fun of her. And you could tell by then they've already had a couple of bottles. So, you could tell now they're starting to feel good. Okay. They're getting a little rowdy. She ended up calling the police. She ended up calling the parents. And some of them had to come in from work. They were still working. It was like maybe 3:30, 3:45 in the afternoon. But they did call in the cops. Now, I remember because I saw all this, right? Because I used to play on the basketball team. So we had the gym, and the gym, you open the door, there's the football field. So all the kids were like, oh, my God, the cops are being called. So you go outside, and you're like, holy mackerel. There's like 12, 15 of them. They're getting sloshed out there. I mean, they're getting hammered. They're getting drunk. So the police come. Now, this would never be allowed today. In fact, the police would be arrested for doing what they did. They'd lose their job. They'd lose their pension. They'd be facing jail time. The cops came in. There was 4 of them, 3 men, 1 woman. They walked in into the football field. They looked at him, and in a very loud voice, they spoke French. In a very loud voice, they told him, get out of here. Get your ass out of here. Take the beer. F off. Get lost. Get out of here. So we're not going to make any arrests. Just get out. Well, no, there's a couple of punks. F you. What are you going to do? On and on. So what the police did was, and I'll never forget this, he grabbed, and he was one of the biggest kids. Okay. He was by then over 6 feet tall. maybe 6'1", 6'2", skinny, but 6'1", 6'2". He grabbed him by the leg, by the ankle, and, by the leg, by the ankle. And he just started to yank him along the grass. And he said, in French, it was like, stop effing around, okay? But in French, hey, and he just started to yank him on the grass. And you can tell the fact that he grabbed him and just yanked him for a couple of yards along the grass. In other words, that he got a little physical with this punk, and he was a punk. You could tell it shocked him. It shocked this guy. And he got up right away. You could tell he's very embarrassed. And now he knows, oh no, this guy's going to arrest me. Like this is serious. And it's going to go back to my parents. And then it's going to get really serious. So he then started to walk away. And then the others began to disperse. And then she was a female police officer, grabbed one of the girls, as she was also mouthing off. And she grabbed her by the ear, just by the ear, and just tugged on the ear a little bit. And and in French, get your ass out of here. And it was done. Within 2 minutes, they were all gone. They were dispersed. And the people watching were like, the kids, yeah, like, good job. You finally sent them packing. Good, yeah. Woo. So they were really doubly embarrassed. But then this happened. Some of the parents by then were coming in their cars into the parking lot. They knew what had happened. They saw what had happened. They saw that one of their kids had been dragged by the police officer by the leg along the grass, that another girl had her ear pulled for about 10, 15 seconds by a police officer. When that guy, Robbie, the tall kid that got dragged on the grass, when Robbie came, his mother came to get him. When Robbie was approaching the car, you could hear her yelling a mile away. What are you doing? What are you doing? They called the police. And she starts whacking him right behind his head, like the back of his head. And he was much taller than her. I mean, she was like half his size. But she's like, bang, 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 like 3 shots to the back of the head. Get your ass in the car now. Wait till your father gets home. And he's like, I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, Mom. Stop it, Mom. You're embarrassing me. Stop it. Now, she didn't run up to the police officer, because this is what they would do today. How dare you put your finger on my son's leg? How dare you drag him? You touched my son? I'm going to sue you for millions of dollars. You're never going to work in this town again. She reinforced the police. She backed the police. Now, she didn't thank the police because she was so mad. She was like, you could tell she was seeing red. She went into her car and drove off. But my point is, all of those kids, they were I'm telling you, that guy got spanked when he got home. When Daddy got home, this guy was in big trouble. Now, yeah, he was a problem child for a while in high school. He ended up graduating college, had a great job. This guy, Robbie, all of them ended up, you meet them afterwards. You go, hey, what did this person do? What is this person doing? I'm not saying they're brain surgeons, but they all ended up going to college or getting a trade, and they all became good, law-abiding citizens. And they were taught to fear their parents and to fear authority and to respect authority, and yes, to fear and respect the police. Like, I'm telling you right now, if that was me on the grass and I'm showing off in front of my friends and I'm drinking beer, I never drank, but just follow me here, and I'm mouthing off to a police officer, acting fresh, I'm not going to get up. Who the hell are you? Blank you, And a police officer dragged me along the grass, or even if he just slapped me in the face, and my father found out that they had to call the cops, and that I was so unruly and disrespectful that a cop slapped me in the face or dragged me along the grass, he'd kill me. I'm telling you, my father would go berserk. My father would be like, we went through concentration camps for you to make a fool out of my family, our family, so that, a cop had to slap you or whatever. They had to call the police. The police. I mean, it would have been World War III in the house. I'm telling you. So my point just being, there was a respect for police officers. When they came, everything dispersed. And when they took action to make their point, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Wednesday, it's about 7:20-ish. You know what that means. One of your favorite segments, Truth or Troll. Take it away, Mike.
And now, America's favorite game show, where you get to decide on the Kuhner Report. This is Truth or Troll.
Today's entry for Truth or Troll comes from President Trump at a press conference when he is asked if he's considering any renovations to a specific room in the White House.
My question is this. You're building the big, beautiful ballroom. Yeah. Could we build a big, beautiful briefing room?
Yes.
New technology, more seats.
I don't want to do that. I don't want you to be comfortable. So no, I don't want to make life comfortable.
So he doesn't want to make anyone in the press comfortable. Is he telling the truth there, or is he just trolling them and having fun with them?
No, I think, first of all, by the way, is Trump having a good time or what? I'm like, you could just see that. Boy, he's having fun. He's enjoying his second term. I mean, he's working like a demon, like a speed demon. The guy's just breaking his back, but he is having fun. No, honestly, I think he's telling the truth. I think he's like, no, why? You guys hound me. You persecute me. You lie about me. You demonize and smear me relentlessly. You tried to frame me as an agent of Russia. You did everything to try to destroy me. And now you want me to build you a beautiful briefing room so you guys can be as comfortable as possible? No, I don't think so. Blank you. No. So honestly, I think he's telling the truth, but I want the audience to weigh in on this. So President Trump was asked if he would build a big, beautiful press room after he's done building the new White House ballroom. He said no. Why would he want to make the press more comfortable? Is he being truthful? Or is he just, trolling them, having a little bit of fun at their expense? A, he's telling the truth. B, he's trolling them. I think he's serious. I mean, he said it with a smile. But I think he's like, no, why would I do anything for you? But that's A. That's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN is a national ER. You can also vote via X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report. KUHN is a national ER. Larry in Leominster. Larry, if my Ashton decides to bust up a local playground or decides to have one too many drinks with his buddies in public and he's publicly intoxicated, should I spend 90 days in the can? Should I go 90 days in the slammer? I mean, should they throw me behind bars, Larry? What say you?
Yes, I'll bake you a cake. How about that? First, I want to say Happy International Left-Handed Day, Left-Handers Day. Being left-handed, that's important to me. Yeah, it was great. I had Sandy laughing so hard I got her to snort. It was funny. So listen, I am going to play devil's advocate on this because now I don't have children, right? I think there's a petition in the 90s to prevent me from reproducing. That's another story. So listen, what did we just hear from Judge Jeanine Pirro? D.C. is a mess, and she can't arrest any of these kids. She gave a great example. One kid shoots another kid in the chest on a bus. He got probation, or he'll get probation, because everything is so lax and lenient. So now they're going to hold parents responsible. Do you remember the Crumbleys? Does that name ring a bell?
No, Larry. Could you say that name again?
The Crumbleys.
Oh, no. Could you...
their son shot up his school. They're doing time as well as him.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yes,
There's precedent.
Yes.
All right. And so now, if they're going to enact these laws, and I think it could be a good idea if done right, because what's going to happen is parents are going to start to say, hey, we can't control our kids. We're not allowed to discipline our kids. And it's going to make them take a strong look at, like when you and I were raised, when we were brought up, your father would have killed you if you did something stupid. My dad was a cop in my hometown. He was a big cop in my hometown. The advantage I had was the younger cops made it their mission to find kids of the supervisory cops doing something stupid just so they could embarrass the boss legitimately. So I was on my best behavior because I knew what would happen if I got caught by any one of my father's officers doing something dumb. They need to go back. They need to stop with this, parents getting arrested because their kid walked to the 7-Eleven by themselves. Parents getting arrested because a kid walked to the park by himself. Parents are afraid to discipline their kids. Their kids know it. They'll go right to their face and they'll say, hit me, I'll call CPS. The whole thing. This has been a social experiment, Jeff, for the last, I'd say, 40 years, and it's an utter failure. So I don't say if you're jaywalking, your parents should get, arrested or anything. But think about this. You set an example of you go away for the weekend and he has friends over and they're drinking and stuff. What if one of them gets hurt or paralyzed? What if they destroy your neighbor's property because they're drunk? For restitution? Or should it be on your hands because you have to have a little bit of responsibility and discipline?
Well, Larry, you're making, as always, a really fascinating point. Larry, look, here's what I would say. If a child was hurt, say Grace and I and Ava go on a weekend vacation, Ashton says he can be alone, we let him be alone, he throws this crazy big party, I'm just doing the hypothetical, and one of his friends gets drunk and, woo, and, whatever, jumps from the, into the pool and smashes his head and then gets paralyzed, say, from the neck down or the waist down, I would probably be held responsible, but that would be for civil damages, right? Or if, say, one of them damages my neighbor's property. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we're going to go right back to Larry in Leominster, but let me just quickly reset because we have a lot of new listeners that come in at this time. There was a major law passed by the way, this is a big story in the New York Post. So again, hat tip to them for breaking it. So there is now a national trend, especially in blue states, blue cities, blue towns, in which there are laws being passed, and one of the latest is in Gloucester Township in New Jersey. It's about 8 or 9 miles away from Philadelphia, right on the New Jersey border with Pennsylvania, in which literally now the law is it's official that if your teenager commits crimes, and there's about 28 of them that they put in the list, from muggings to assault to vandalism to drug dealing to vandalizing a playground to public drunkenness to even something they call immorality, just quote unquote immorality, that the parents will be held liable. They won't do it for the first offense, But if there's a second or third offense, either the mother or the father or both will go to jail for up to 90 days or pay a $2,000 fine. And this stemmed from a massive brawl last year in which 500 teenagers engaged in an all-out fight. 11 people were arrested, including 9 teenagers. 3 police officers were injured. And they say that teen violence, teen misbehavior, that a teenage illegal behavior is out of control. And they're saying it's because of horrible parenting, that the parents aren't disciplining their children, that they're not restraining their children. And so they say they want to put an incentive now for parents to finally parent and rein in their kids. So this is now the question before the House. Should parents be jailed or fined for the actions of their children, especially if their children break the law? I say absolutely not. This is an ominous, very dangerous precedent that goes against personal responsibility, strips away parental rights and parental authority and parental freedom. And to me, think about it. You just see the consequences of this. Say you have one bad child. You have 3, 4 kids. One of them turns out not to be good. And they get in trouble with the law a few times as a teenager. So now you, the parent, are going to go to jail, which means you can't go to work, which means you can't feed your family. You can't pay the mortgage. You can't put food on the table. You're going to be away from your other kids. They're not going to have a parent as well. I mean, these people are crazy. Just on every level, this is to me a bad idea. But let's go back to Larry in Leominster, because Larry makes an excellent point. Say my Ashton, we're just using Ashton as an example. He doesn't drink. He's a very good kid. But say, he's 15. He's going to be 16 soon. And, he can stay home alone. He likes to play video games with his friends. And he says, Dad, you and Mom go on a vacation. I'll stay home. I'll guard the fort. And before you know it, he has a party, hypothetically. And they come over and they drink. And you know how teenagers are when they drink. And some kid gets hurt in the home. Or, God forbid, they go to a neighbor's house and do damage. Well, Larry's point, and it's an excellent one, who's responsible? Well, I am. Now, the point I was making to Larry, and I'd love for him to, to hear his answer, but that would be for civil damages, right? If a child gets hurt, God forbid, paralyzed or whatever, in an injury, well, then I'd be responsible civilly. If they damage my, my neighbor's car or my neighbor's fence, yes, I'm responsible for civil damages, but not to go to jail. In other words, there's civil liability, but not criminal liability. Larry, am I wrong?
You are, Jeff, because you're only looking at the civil part. If those kids did that damage, there's going to be criminal charges too. You cannot forget that. That's just not you and the other parents saying, hey, let's work this out on the side. But you said something in the coming back into it. You said it takes away parental rights, parental authority, and all that, right? They took that away 40 years ago. Think about it. Can you discipline your children the way your parents disciplined you?
No.
That's half the problem. There's a great expression also that raise your kids, spoil your grandkids. If you don't raise your kids, you're going to raise your grandkids. It's got to be 2 ways, is like I was saying. The only way this would work, and how I think it would work, is let's make an example out of a few parents, worst case scenarios. Other parents are going to say, hey, listen, we want our rights back to start disciplining children. This is ridiculous. You don't let us discipline our children, and then you're punishing us for when they act out. It's got to be a 2-way street, and maybe the whole culture just needs to shift. I don't mean beating your kids. I don't mean, I had a laugh. The first time I went to Arkansas, when I got stationed down there, I was floored that schools still had corporal punishment. Teachers were allowed to paddle unruly students. And I thought to myself, if they tried that up in Boston, they'd get thrown out the window. I had that attitude at 18. Now at 55, I'm like, oh, that might not be a bad idea. You know, again, not beating a kid, not abusing a kid. But I think if more kids growing up had their tanning the hide, there'd be less of this crap going on in like D.C. and these cities. I was told, I'm searching for a house in Arkansas. Don't go back to where I lived in a town called Jacksonville. Jacksonville's the host town of the Air Force Base. It has gotten bad as Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and it's only like a 30,000, 45,000 strong town. And it's gotten too dangerous.
Wow.
And because that culture has shifted so much, and the kids, and I partly blame the school system. Who taught all these kids to call CPS? Who taught all these kids that you have rights as a kid, and you let your parents know that? The school system. The liberal mindset.
Oh, you're dead on. Larry, I'm telling you, you're absolutely, you are on fire today, man. Larry, you are dead on. No, look, she said it tongue in cheek. This was about a year ago, okay? My Ava, my younger daughter. Now, she said it tongue in cheek. She was misbehaving. She was teasing her brother, whatever it was. And I said, Ava, knock it off or I'm going to send you to your room. And she hates being sent to her room. And this is what she said to me. Yeah, Daddy, and if you do that, I'm going to call social services. I said, what? And she started laughing. Just kidding, Daddy. But that's what they tell us in school. That's what she told me. The teachers tell us in school that if your parents mistreat you, you can call social services on your mom and dad. Ha, 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 ha. Now, now she was joking. She would never call social services, but, for what? Sending her to a room? But my point is, I'm like, boy, so look at them. Look how they're indoctrinating the kids to turn on the parents. And now they're being fed all this garbage. Well, your parents can't discipline you. What's spanking? They can't even send you to your room or send you to the corner. And look, Larry, I think you really put your finger on it. The very same liberals who said you can't spank your children, don't touch them, you can't touch a hair on their head, now turn around and say, well, your kids are running wild. We're going to send you to jail. Well, and the parents are all turning around saying, but you're telling us we weren't allowed to spank our kids. So we weren't able to spank or discipline our kids. Now that we've created these monsters, suddenly you want to send us to jail? Like, no, I don't think so. Now, I'm like you, Larry. Look, I'm not saying abuse your kid or, take a baseball bat or beat your children. But, a little whack on the rear end never killed anybody. Whatever. Send the kid to the corner. Give the kid a timeout. Send the kid to the room. I don't know. Go to bed. No dinner for you tonight. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so let me ask all of you. At a fairness level, at the most basic fairness level, how can, say, this town in New Jersey, I'm just using Gloucester Township as an example, how can you hold parents accountable if their children misbehave or are out of control when you're literally tying their hands when it comes to disciplining them and rearing them at home? So if you're not able to spank them and you're not able to hold them accountable, if they, misbehave or unruly or whatever, then suddenly but I'm responsible if they go out and start getting drunk or if they smoke weed in public or if they, graffiti on the school walls or whatever, destroy or whatever with their friends, they tear up a school playground. Suddenly I'm going to go 90 days in jail. So you tie my hands as a parent, and then you hold me responsible when after your failed policy of the last 40 years has created these spoiled, entitled children who feel there are no consequences to anything they do, and suddenly they're running wild, and now you're going to send me to jail or fine me $2,000? I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, this is an absolutely really good message I got. It's from Joe. This is so true. Same thing with me when I was growing up as well. Jeff, back when I grew up, and to give you an idea, I will be 50 in September. Back when I grew up, cops wouldn't even take you to jail. They would just take you home. Back then, I was more scared of my parents and what they would do than what the cops wouldn't do. The left teaching these kids that they have more rights than their parents is what's causing all of this. If I ever said to my parents, I will charge you for assault if you touch me, then I'd probably need to call an ambulance at the same time. We have taken the parents' power away from them. I remember coming home from school one day and explained to my father how the gym teacher cracked me upside the head. In other words, a whack to the head. He asked why. I said because I was talking when he was. What do you think happened? My father smacked me upside the head as well. This is the issue, like you just said. Kids need tough discipline, and that's the bottom line. Well, that's the thing. Now you can't discipline your kid. You can't give him a firm hand. And now they're telling us, well, the kids are monsters. Your kids don't know how to behave. Oh, okay. Well, you told us we were abusing our children every time we smacked them. A little, whatever, a whack on the head or a whack on the bum or a whack on the thigh or whatever. I'm destroying their self-esteem when I send them to the corner. When I do a timeout, I'm destroying the psyche of my child. That's what they kept telling us. Give them a hug. Listen to them. Understand them. Indulge them. Now you see the consequences of this, and now you want to put me in jail? No, absolutely not. And by the way, there's in the New York Post article, there's another great point. Under a specific law, and this is all across New Jersey, this is not just Gloucester Township. Listen to this. If your child identifies as transgender, okay, whatever, a boy wants to be a girl wants to be a boy, they want to be a they and it, whatever. Schools now are not required. In fact, they're urged not to even inform the parents. And so what many of the parents are saying is, again, it's another assault on parental rights. They're saying, and by the way, it's not just on transgender kids. They're now keeping certain things confidential. They have what are called confidential files. This is by law. So don't inform the parents if their children are misbehaving in the schools. Not just to protect them regarding transgenderism, but God knows what other issues they're involved in. So the parents are saying, so they're blocking information deliberately from being relayed to us about our own kids in school. But then we're supposed to know so much about our child that we're going to prevent them from committing possible crimes or vandalism or misbehavior in public at the point of a 90-day jail sentence. They go, you see, so we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. So they want to keep a lot of information from the parents, but then they want to blame the parents if their children do something wrong. That's liberalism for you in a nutshell. Dave in Framingham. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Dave.
Jeff, I'll tell you, what happened to when little kids were getting mouthy and mouthy and mouthy? Jeff, when I was growing up, my mother was from the old school growing up. She washed my mouth out with soap in a half a minute if I was saying the wrong words. You can't even do that today with kids. Because kids today, Jeff, have no respect for the authority or anything else. And, Jeff, what they do need, which I don't know if they still have it going on, remember the show Scared Straight, where they take all these little punks who act like, they're all tough guys, and they stick them in jail for a couple of hours in front of all the ex-cons, and up in their face, and they're telling the little kids everything they've done wrong, and if you don't smarten up, you're going to be here too. They don't even have that going on anymore, Jeff. What they do need, not putting the parents away, Jeff, but bring back the days of when they used to have detention centers for youths, for teenagers, like the movie Bad Boys, Jeff, with Sean Penn, the original movie. Okay? That's what they need today. Don't put the parents in, because the parents are doing the best they can, Jeff, to raise their kids. It's not the parents' fault that they're going out, act like a bunch of idiots, and they get locked up and, you know, going on the football field, drinking Labatt's all morning long or all afternoon after winning a football game. But, Jeff, Labatt's is a very good ale, by the way.
No, I know. I've been told. But, no, Dave, look, you're completely right. And just to piggyback off of what you're saying, and I'd love to get your take on this. To me, what I've also noticed, and it's been about 15, 20 years now, and this, I think this is literally unprecedented in civilized history. Okay, this is, I'm talking, you're going back at least 3,000 years. This has never been done before, where kids address adults by their first name. It's odd. Like, I've noticed this with Ashton's friends, Ava's friends. It doesn't matter. Like, Ava's got a very good friend. She walks up to me and says, "Hi, Jeff." I'm like, "Jeff? Couldn't you at least call me Mr. Jeff?" You know what I mean? I mean, I'd prefer Mr. Kuhner, but that's okay. But how about Mr. Jeff? And they're like, "No, it's Jeff." All the parents talk about it. You know, they refer to their teachers by their first name? Like, whatever. "Hey, Lori. Hey, John." The principal. He's Dennis. I'm just going to make up a name now. You know, Dennis Smith. He's not Mr. Smith or Principal Smith. No, he's Denny. "Denny, how are you?" Now, an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, that's how they talk to adults. That's how they talk to authority. That's how they talk to their principal and teachers. Now, just that alone, there's no respect for authority. It's just polite to refer to someone who's older than you, especially if you're a kid, if you're a minor, by their Mr. or Mrs. or Miss or whatever, and their last name. That's actually just a sign of respect. But more than that, I'm just telling you, culturally, the reason why it's done in every culture in the world, it's to instill respect for authority. Like, the parents, the uncles, the aunts, the teachers, police officers, nurses, doctors, whatever, just society in general. What we are doing now is we're creating a child-centric world where everything, if you've noticed, everything revolves around the child. Everything. It's unbelievable. A child will determine everything. And I can't tell you how many times we've had this discussion with our kids. I mean, I listen to my kids. What they say, I take into account, obviously. But you don't run this home. This is not a democracy. I don't know what you two are thinking. Mommy makes the big decisions, and Daddy will weigh in if Daddy needs to weigh in, if Mommy needs Daddy to weigh in. I mean, that's just how it is. So you're not going to tell us when curfew is, when you go to bed, what we eat for dinner. You guys would have junk food every day. You're not going to tell us where we go on vacation. I mean, I'm just giving you example after example. You're not going to tell us what we do on the weekends. You're not going to tell us how we spend our money. But you look at so many parents today, it's the children run them, literally run them. Here, look, one of Ashton's very dear friends, and I like him. He's a good kid. He will not eat anything but macaroni and cheese. And, we know the mother. She's a very nice mother, a very nice woman. Nothing against her personally. But she's like, I'm just going to make up a name. Tim doesn't like anything else but mac and cheese. Well, Grace says to her, yeah, but that's not healthy. It's not healthy for Tim. Look, you're the mother. You can do whatever you want. But, he needs fruits, he needs vegetables, he needs protein. It's mac and cheese for lunch and dinner, and cereal for breakfast. It's not good for him. It's not healthy. It's up to you. You're the parent. I'm not going to tell you how to parent, but your child needs nutrient. No, if Tim wants only mac and cheese, they only serve him mac and cheese. No, this is not a dictator. I'm sorry, it's not a democracy. You don't get a vote. Now, okay, my son or daughter likes mac and cheese maybe once a week, hell, twice a week. For lunch here or there, okay, fine. But every meal all the time? Now, that's just a small example. I see it again and again and again. But here, my daughter just graduated from elementary school. This was maybe a month ago, 2 months ago? We go to the graduation ceremony. All the kids refer to everyone else's parents, their friends' parents, by their first name. At first I thought, is this only Ava's friends? No, they all do it. John, Jane, Frank, it doesn't matter. Jennifer, it doesn't matter. And it's just considered normal. So you go to a little kid, hi, Bobby. And then Bobby says to the grown-up, this is a 45, 50-year-old woman, and then goes back and says, whatever. Hi, Jenny. If I went around, if I called my principal by his first name, if I called my teacher by their first name, if I called my uncle, my aunt, never mind my dad. If I walked up to my dad, his name was Jack. Hey, Jack, bang. Right there, bang. Just bang. No, nothing. There's no explanation. Just bang. Then my mother would pile on and say, how dare you talk to your father like that? It's just, it's disrespectful. So, again, now, I know these idiot liberals, I already got the emails coming in. Oh, you sound like such an old fogey. Look at you. Oh, it was so much better in the old days. Actually, it was a hell of a lot better. The classrooms were better. The schools were better. The crime rate was a hell of a lot lower. I could go on and on. It was better. But we're not talking now, this is not some middle-aged fogey saying, back in my day. I'm talking now about the basics of living in a civilized society. I'm talking about eat with a fork and knife. I'm talking about Mr., Mrs., Ms., Sir, ma'am. Just basic forms of respect. Nothing. It's all breaking down. And these idiots wonder why these kids are running wild. If they don't respect their parents, why will they respect you? If they don't respect the police, you think they're going to respect the teacher? You think they're going to respect the law? So you can keep throwing parents in jail. It's not going to fix the problem. Dave, am I wrong? Final word to you.
No, Jeff, you're not wrong. And the whole thing is today, Jeff, it's kids raising kids. Girls going out getting pregnant at 17 years old, and the father is who knows where, and everything else. So they're not learning respect, Jeff, like we had to learn when we were growing up. And that's the whole thing, too. The kids are mouthing off any way they want to mouth off and think they're going to get away with it. And if they get arrested, let the kid go to a youth service board like we had back in the old days when I was a kid. Because they had youth detention centers, like I said, like the movie Bad Boys. They had them all over the place in Massachusetts back in the day, Jeff. And the kids should be held responsible, do 6 months, and think about what you just did.
Dave, you're 1,000% correct. Dave, thank you very much for that call. Again, just super quick, okay? I mean, I could give you example after example, but this is the culture. It's like an acid pool. It's like a pool of acid that is just destroying all these fundamental bonds that used to hold us together. So here, let me just give you an example. Ashton, I forget what it was, but it was somebody on our street. It was a neighbor. And Ashton referred to this neighbor in Dave, whatever it was, whatever, Jim. And he said, yeah, hi, Jim. And I said, Ashton, it's Mr. Now, he doesn't know Jim's last name. So I said, at least call him Mr. Jim. And the man was, the guy, my neighbor on the street was saying to me, Jeff, I got to tell you, everywhere I go now, he has 2 sons. They're both teenagers. He goes, no one ever calls me Mr. No one calls me sir. The young, like the teenagers. It's all first name. Like I don't know, like we're buddies. Like I'm their age. And so what's happening is, he says that he's noticing it on the workforce that they call their bosses by their first name. They have no respect for their bosses. And not only do they not have respect for their bosses, because they don't respect any kind of authority, they think they're entitled to everything. In other words, how dare you fire me? How dare you reprimand me? How dare you say what I'm doing is wrong? How dare you not pay me what I think I'm worth? Like, for example, offering them $20 an hour, it's an insult. Like, no, I'm worth $50 an hour. Well, you may think you're worth 50, but I'm telling you, that's what you're worth. That's what this job pays. No. And then literally it's like, no, Jim. I'm sorry. No, Jim. Absolutely not, Jim. I'm telling you I'm worth $50 an hour. And if you don't like it, I'm right out that door. So the point is, they're saying on the workforce, they're saying we can't socialize them to work. They don't know how to behave in an office setting. By the way, having them shake hands now, it's a miracle. Everybody talks about it. They don't shake hands. I've never seen this is common in every office now in America. You will have a colleague at work, I'm talking about the 20 somethings, whatever they are, Generation Z, whatever generation it is. And you know them, you talk to them in the office, and yet you're walking down the hallway and they don't acknowledge you. They look down, they look away, they're in their phone. It's as if, well, if I don't need to speak to you, I just won't speak to you. And so I'm talking people now 35, 40 and above are saying, so you say hi to someone that you know, that you work with, 3 feet away from you, and they don't say hi back. It's weird. It's just weird. It's like they're unsocialized. They're antisocial. People who are like bosses or superiors or whatever say, I got someone coming in for a job interview. And I say, come on in. And they don't shake their hand. They don't extend their hand and say, pleasure to meet you. I don't know, Mr. Johnson or Mrs. Smith, pleasure to meet you. Nothing. I'm telling you, nothing. They walk in and it's, hi, Jim. And they just sit down. And there's no greeting, there's no acknowledgement, there's no handshake, there's no nothing. So what I'm saying is, they don't even have the basic forms of respect to shake your hand. You're going to be their boss. I mean, to me, my boss it's Mr. This, Mr. That. Of course, you're my boss. I'm showing respect to you by the way I address you. No, they're entitled to everything. And they all comment on this. Final point. You're not interviewing them. They're interviewing you. Because we've never seen anything like this. If you're lucky, they're straight out of college, no experience, and they need the job. They're even telling you they've got mountains of student debt. No. They're interviewing you. No, $20, that doesn't cut it. They have wild expectations, unrealistic expectations of salary. Oh, they have to work remote. Well, I don't do the office. Well, what do you mean you don't do the office? Like, I'm sorry. You're applying for a job here. We set the terms. Now, if we want you in the office, you're going to be in the office. Well, then you're just not for me. And everyone's like, what? And they need the job. They need that. I mean, the applicant will tell you, I need the job. It doesn't matter. They're out. It's social media. It's their upbringing. There's a lot of factors. But this is what I'm being told, and this is Liberals, conservatives, independents, Republicans, Democrats. It's an age. It's if you're 35 or 40 years old and above, and everybody who's hearing this is like shaking, is nodding their head up and down, like, oh yeah, Jeff, we hear you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Mike is feeling very uncomfortable right now. He's in the control center, and he's like, well, but I've never called you Mr. Kuhner. From the day I met you, I called you Jeff. I'm like, yeah, but Mike, you're an adult. It's different. Mike, by the way, I keep forgetting your age. Are you 25 or 26 now, Mike? Are you serious? You're really 27? Mike, boy. Mike, you're getting up there, my friend. He's been with me for 3 years. Boy, you're really, you're getting old, Mike. No, I mean, Mike, it's if you were like 15 or 16 and say you were interning and you walk in and, you want the internship and you I extend my hand and I go, nice to meet you. And you say, hey, Jeff. hey, Kuhner. I'd be like, nah, this is not making a good impression. So that's the difference, Mike. I mean, 25, 26, 27 years old is one thing. And I'm also a very informal guy. But, 14, 15, 16, no, Mike, you call people mister. But that's me. Angelo in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Angelo, and welcome. Angelo? I think we lost Angelo. Okay. Who do you want to go to next, Mike? John in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, John.
I hope you are sitting down.
Okay.
Because I'm going to lay on you. You might already know this, but I know you've got listeners all over the country, all over the world. So this particularly is going to hit California. Right now, the state of California legislature has a bill going through, AB 495. This is a direct attack on parental rights. And let me lay it out for you. Let's say any Joe Schmo off the street, Bob, we'll say. All he's got to do is go in, fill out a form. He can either have emailed to him, snail mailed to him, or he can go pick it up. Fill this form out. They don't do no background check, no ID check. He can fill this form out, and he can even be specific about the child that he wants to pick up. He can take that form, go into a school, and say, I'm here to take custody of this child, and the school will not ask for ID, and they will not call the parents. And he can't that child. Opponents to the bill are calling it the California legislature trafficking bill. On August 19th, they're going to have a big protest on the steps of the Capitol in Sacramento. I advise everybody, anybody that's even in California listening, you've got to show up. Somebody pulled strings up at the Capitol. They were only expecting to get half a day, the afternoon. Somebody pulled strings and got the whole day. They got the steps of the Capitol all day for protesting. If this happens, if this bill passes, parents will have no say. They can just walk in and grab your kid, and nobody can do anything about it.
John, let me be brutally honest. First of all, you've shocked me. You've rung my bell, as they say. I'm in disbelief, in utter disbelief. Half of my brain is saying there has to be something wrong with this. there has to be something that John is leaving out, that this cannot possibly be true. And then there's the other half of my brain, and that's the one that's going on fire right now. That's the one that's going crazy, saying this is California, this is California, this is crazy California. If anybody would do a bill like this, it would either be them or Massachusetts. And so I'm like, this could be very true. John, where can I want to get more information on this. John, what is it in reaction to? In other words, why are they pushing this bill? As you were explaining it, I'm thinking like, well, is it because disgruntled fathers who, let's say, are getting divorced or split with their wives, with their spouses, say they don't have any access to their children? Is that what it is? Is it something regarding parental custody and maybe discrimination against the fathers or the males? But what you're telling me is this has nothing to do with the parents. This has to do with an utter stranger who wants to claim they have the right to take your child from school must be allowed to take your child from school. John, this is in reaction to what? What are they responding to by trying to push this bill?
This is just 4 or 5 reprobates in the state legislature. They came up with this all on their own. This isn't in response to anything. And I got this information from Pastor Jack Hibbs, who is the pastor of Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. And he advised his whole congregation. He said, listen, I'm getting people together. I want a minimum of 5,000 people at the steps.
That's not, wow. John, I am going to look into this. You have my word. And if this is true, I think exactly the way you laid it out, you know what? I've never done a rally in California. I know. I say it all the time, but it's true. I don't know what else to tell you. 8:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. This is a great text from 703. Listen to this. Jeff, and by the way, you can text the Kuhner man. 70470, 70470. Jeff, the turning point and visible disrespect for the cops started a few years ago, the summer before the 2020 George Floyd riots, when the inner city youths threw water. Do you remember this? Threw water on the NYPD cops in the summertime, and the cops did nothing. I remember that. It was all over New York. You had these hoodlums, thugs, going around literally dumping buckets of water on police officers, just randomly on the streets. And the cops did nothing. This was under de Blasio, Big Bird, Bill de Blasio. That was the green light. And then Antifa turned it into frozen water bottles, bricks, urine, crap, Molotov cocktails, and commercial July 4th fireworks, which were being pelted at police officers. And how many of those initial water throwers put a black hood and turned into Antifa? It was disgusting. But the original spark was the infamous, quote-unquote, beer summit with the dear leader, Barack Obama, and that Cambridge police officer who was just doing his job. He never should have gone. He was used. Bingo. Going back now, looking, hindsight being 2020, that beer summit, remember what Obama said? The Cambridge police acted stupidly when they were just doing their job. That's it, that they were just doing their job. And he openly, publicly, repeatedly denigrated, attacked, and demonized and vilified the police. And then had that pathetic beer summit, which to me made the whole thing even worse. And from that point on, the public respect and authority that the police had started to go downhill. And frankly, it's never recovered. Agree, disagree, Billy in Stoneham. Thanks for holding, Billy, and welcome.
Kuhner. So I have to agree with you. I never call any of my friends' parents by titles, but I gotta say I blame it on the parents. I think they've drifted us away from it. I've never been like told to call them Mister. I'll just say like, "Hey, Steve," you know.
Billy, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
17.
You're 17. Now, I mean, what about your mom and dad? You call them mom and dad, or are they like, Joe and Jane?
No, I call them mom and dad.
But you're saying your parents as friends, adults, you just, it's Steve, it's Tammy, it's always on a first name basis.
Yeah. But teachers, I do like Mrs. Smith. I wouldn't call them by their first name.
And what about Billy? What about the principal?
I call him Mr.
Interesting. Now, is it now who taught you to call adults by their first name? I'm just curious, Billy. Did your parents teach you that, or was it just something you picked up?
It was never really taught. It was just I kind of adapted that as I grew up, I guess.
And did the adults ever say anything to you? Did they ever say, "Hey, Billy, please do me a favor. Call me Mr. Smith. Or at a minimum, call me Mr. Steve"?
No, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think it would be better. It's more of a respect thing. But no one's ever really commented against it. And I feel like since everyone else calls them by their first name, I'd be very different to call them Mr. Steve or...
Oh, I agree. No, Billy, I agree. Billy, again, if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. Billy, have you ever had any run-ins with the law?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I'm just asking this for the related to the topic of today.
Yeah.
God forbid if you did, and you sound like a really nice kid, by the way. And I'm saying kid in an affectionate way. You're a year away from being an adult, so obviously you're a young adult. Or on your way to becoming a young adult. But Billy, if you, whatever, engaged in vandalism, you were, I don't know, got drunk publicly, you, whatever, got into a fight and assaulted somebody, whatever it is. And so you ended up going to juvenile court. You were found guilty. Should your parents be held responsible for the crime that you committed? Do you think that's right? Either they go 90 days in jail or pay a fine. Should they be liable if you broke the law? I'm just curious, what's your opinion on this, Billy?
Oh, I think at a certain age, no, but then again, like, they've taught you and raised you, so to an extent, I mean, I think it would be their fault. And
so you're saying now, Billy, do you have friends that have gone to jail or broken the law?
I mean, like gotten in trouble by the cops maybe, but never like gone to jail.
Now, if they do something bad, whatever, graffiti or whatever, they're smoking marijuana or they're publicly intoxicated, as they say, drunk in public. Do you think it's their parents' fault, or do you think it's their fault?
I think it's pretty 50-50. I mean, parents need to teach them better, I guess, if they're having run-ins with the law.
What if they teach them right from wrong and do the best they can, but, some people, Billy, are just what they say, a bad seed. They just, make bad decisions and they know it's wrong, but they do it anyway.
Kids make mistakes.
And your position is ultimately the parents shouldn't go to jail for mistakes made by the children, correct?
Correct. But the parents should definitely be.
Now, Billy, can you do me a big favor? Because you clearly have a bright future ahead of you. You got a good head on your shoulders. You seem to be a person of really good character. can you just start calling your parents' adult friends Mr. or Mrs. or Ms.? Just on your own. Can you just start doing that? Because you really are a very polite young man. So there's no reason for you to be impolite or disrespectful in some aspects of your life when you're so polite in other aspects. So I'm just saying, for you, it's going to make it. Trust me, it's going to make you look even better. Hey, you think maybe you can commit to that, Billy?
I'll commit to that, Mr. Kuhner.
Oh yeah, no, me you can call Jeff. But you're a funny guy. Billy, please don't be a stranger. Call again. And God bless you, Billy. 617. No, I'm the one guy you don't call Mr. Kuhner. I'm not important enough, Billy. Lisa in Malden. Thanks for holding. But by the way, Mike, did you hear that? You see how he refers to me, Mike? You see that? Mr. Kuhner. I'm just saying, Mike. Lisa in Malden. Thanks for holding, Lisa, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I am calling because I am a preschool teacher, and I am over 45. So I'm seeing a lot of things with these little kids, just with the little kids. They don't know how to build with blocks. I make them call me Miss Lisa. I've seen younger people come in for job interviews dressed in jeans, and I'm just like, what the heck is going on here?
You have candidates who want to teach come in for a job interview in jeans, and they call you Lisa?
I'm not the boss, but I've seen them come in jeans. Like,
Lisa, can you please do me a favor? I'm up against a hard break. I really want everybody to hear this. 617-266-6868 is the number. Heading out on vacation this summer? If you've noticed musty basement smells, wet carpet, or condensation, don't wait to deal with it. One unexpected storm while you're gone could mean a flooded basement or serious mold. Groundworks experts will identify the issue, deliver a permanent solution to keep your basement dry year-round. Visit groundworks.com for a free inspection. No pressure quote. Groundworks.com. Okay, let's go right back to Lisa in Malden. Lisa, you mentioned your age, so you're about a 45-year-old school teacher. You deal with a lot of young kids, and you're saying you have seen the change in attitude, the growing utter contempt and disrespect for authority, for teachers, for adults. You've seen the change over years, over the last, 20-some years. And you talked about how even when they come in for a job, here they're in for a job interview, younger applicants, they want to become a teacher, will come in jeans and will address all of the other teachers, adults, by their first name. Lisa, please pick up where you left off.
Oh, yeah. So I kind of got ahead of myself because this subject obviously touches me personally because I'm just like all over the place with it. The younger generation, they come here for job interviews. I've seen them come in jeans. I've seen them come in like those stretch pants. I even questioned the boss, principal, at one point, like, oh, what's that person here for, a job interview? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, hello, what are they wearing? And that person didn't even last. They hired the person. They put her in my classroom as my assistant, and she wasn't even there 3 months before she just quit. And she quit 10 minutes after she was supposed to be in for her shift. They don't care. They don't care how anybody else feels around them. They're very ungrateful. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how many times I've covered, classes for younger teachers and just not even a thank you. Hold
on, Lisa. So even when you cover for them, they don't even say thank you.
Even a thank you.
Lisa, would you describe them, because this is how they're described to me, and this is how many of them appear to me as well, that they're very self-centered and extremely narcissistic, very self-absorbed?
Yes. Ungrateful.
Interesting.
It's like somebody owes them something. The attitude is it's and it does start at home, I have to say, because I work with younger kids. I'm talking 3, 4, 5-year-olds, and I have agencies. If I have a child with behavior problems, I have agencies coming in here and telling me how to use nicer words. Use the word no. We use the word feeling. Why are you feeling this way? It's like, really? My parents told me, get over it, go outside and play. They figure it out.
So they're telling you, when you're dealing with these 3, 4, 5-year-old kids, don't use words like no. It's all about their feelings, and cater to their feelings and address their feelings and talk about their feelings, correct?
Absolutely. And also have an example of one time the principal came in my room and was like, oh, I have a whole bunch of stickers, Lisa, if you want them, to give them to the kids. So I was like, oh, I'd love to reward my kids, but I'm not going to give stickers to kids who don't earn them. And she never gave me the stickers.
Unbelievable.
I'm
Lisa,
sorry, but I'm not going to reward bad behavior.
Oh, you're right. No, you're completely, please don't be apologetic. You're completely correct. Mike, you're the normal one. Please don't apologize. Lisa, I've got to ask you, when you talk about the younger kids, do they address you as, I don't know, Miss Lisa, or I'm just going to give you a fake last name, Miss Johnson? Do they call you Lisa? Have you noticed that as well? That younger students or teenagers even, I don't know if you deal with them, but no one's a Mr. or a Mrs. anymore, or a Ms. It's everybody's on a first name basis. Have you noticed that as well?
I was with older kids in high school. Never used my Miss. They never said, Miss Johnson, like.
Yeah.
It was always just Miss. They never used a name, and that was back in the early 2000s. Now, and I was working in an office then in the vice principal's office. But now, being a teacher at this age, they don't call us, by our last name, but I tell them they have to call me Miss Lisa. If they call me Lisa, I said that's not my name. And they get it. My kids know the boundaries in my classroom, but I can only control it in my classroom.
I know.
If I have a kid that I need to send out of the classroom to the principal's office, they don't even back us up. They just give the kid something to color in the office so that they can calm down and relax, and then they send them back. There's no consequences.
Lisa, I'm so happy you called, because they eventually become teenagers, right? What you're talking about now. And now they don't know what to do with them because they're running wild, because they have no respect for authority and there are no consequences to anything they do. And here it is. This phone call, you want to know what the problem is? Here it is in a nutshell. Lisa, thank you very much for that call. And please, you continue to hold the line in the classroom. 617-266-6868. Look, I've got people texting me. I mean, my text line is going to burn up. Seriously. Jeff, these are 14, 15-year-old kids, Jeff. Okay, high school, middle school, high school. Jeff, they called the principal Dan. Whatever, Daniel, again, I'll make up a name. Daniel Torres. And he's Dan. And on the hallway, hey, Dan, Danny. They go, Jeff, they call principals now by their first name. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. Dave in Vermont. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Bonjour, Jeff.
Bonjour. How are you, Dave, my French-Canadian friend?
Good morning, me. Good. Hey, I got a little funny one for you. I grew up in a different time. I grew up in the 50s and early 60s. And one time I found myself afoul of the law. And I ended up in the local jail cell. And my dad was friends with the chief of police. So when he was contacted, the chief, my dad asked the chief if he would do him a favor. And he said, what was that? He said, will you keep my son there overnight, and I'll be there in the morning to pick him up and to settle out the score. Well, I'll tell you what, I had an evening of sitting on a cold, hard bench thinking about what my father was going to do when he showed up at the police station. And that will put the fear of God in a person. But, yeah, I kind of think that today that the way children are and everything, back then Dr. Spock was a laughing joke, you know, but younger people started to take a hold of that. Well, can't touch my kid or anything. Crap, when we grew up, we got the rubber hose or we got the paint stick, the pointer stick across our knuckles, or the teacher grabbing us behind the ear and lifting us out of our chair. But we didn't misbehave a lot.
Oh, you're dead on. I mean, Dave, look, I think it was a little more lenient by the time I was, I went to school in the 70s and 80s, obviously. So it was a tad ahead of your time. But I still remember this was grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. My teachers would pull me by the ear, pull other students by the ear, boys or girls. I would get rapped on the knuckles with a wide ruler. Nobody died. And I'll tell you this, people learned. Classrooms, everybody learned. It was quiet. It was well-behaved. Everybody respected the teacher. Anybody stepped out of line, bang, smack on the, a rap on the knuckles or a pull on the ear or whatever. And the parents supported the teachers. I'll never forget this. Every time we had parent-teacher conference, every time, you had the parents come in and say, and if my Jeffrey misbehaves or whatever, they'd say, you pull him by the ear, you wrap him by the knuckles, you tell me because I'll take care of him. And, the classrooms, you had some disturbances here and there, and the teacher would take care of it. But for the most part, there was no violence, there was no drugs, there was no alcohol, there was no swearing, there was no... there wasn't pandemonium. People learned. It was a well-ordered, well-run classroom. It was school. And the halls were safe. The schoolyards were safe. Everybody respected the principal. Everybody respected the teacher. And, Dave, nobody died, right? When they pulled you by the ear or wrapped you on the knuckles, you didn't die. I didn't die. It wasn't like, oh, my God, we're abused. Oh, our self-esteem. Oh. You turned out okay. I turned out, everybody I knew turned out okay. And then the liberals got involved. And now it's like a zoo. It's not a school. It's a zoo. Dave, thank you very much for that call. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, she's back from vacation. She's been away for a couple weeks. You've all noticed it, but she's back. Dr. Grace putting liberals in their place. Grace Vuoto. She's well rested, recharged, and ready to go. Grace, how are you?
I am still floating on a cloud. I am back from Portugal, and I was there with Ava. And, Jeff, I also went to the holy site of Fatima, which was one of the most important journeys of my life. And as I approached the apparition site, I was moved to tears. And we talk about how people behave. Let me tell you about the Portuguese people. The kindest, sweetest people in Europe. There's no question about it. No question about it. They happen to be among the poorest, but they're the kindest and sweetest. And I had a fantastic encounter one night, and I'll bring it back to the topic of today, with a couple of waiters. We were all there with friends, and I was with Ava and her friend and my friend. And I said, the people in this country are unusually kind and sweet and thoughtful. And I asked, is there intense spirituality here? And the waiter said, well, my parents are very devout. And most of the generation that, precedes this one is very, very devout. And I said, okay, what about you two young men? Are you as devout? They said, no, but we have all the ethics of the Christian faith, but not necessarily go to church. And I said to them right there, as we're having this wonderful dinner, I was getting into like a theological debate. But don't you see that if you do not practice the faith like your parents do, after a couple of generations, you're going to lose the ethics too? Don't you see that faith is the discipline of ethics? Without the faith, after a few generations, what's special in this country will disappear. You will all just become another secular nation. And Jeff, as you're speaking, I thought it's so important that we, as the devout Christians, I think there's no question about it. The problem is we are no longer being missionaries. I know you and I are devout Christians, but going back to Fatima, I feel called once again to not just be a practitioner of the faith, but we have to be missionaries of the faith, as those 3 shepherd children were, those little kids who saw the Virgin, ended up spreading the word to the whole world. And I think we just can't sit in the sidelines. The children nowadays are not socialized. They're just not. And the root of it is that there is not enough intensity of the faith, because all good things come from that practice. And I can go on and on with examples. Some of them are quite funny. The children that come, the friends of our kids, they don't call me Grace or Mrs. They call me Mom of Ava. Mom of Ava. Come here, Mom of Ava.
That is funny. That is very funny. Well, they call me Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, they tease you.
Yeah, they tease me. They don't just call me Jeff because I'm balding. They make fun of me and they go, you're like Jeff Bezos. Soon you're going to have no hair. And they find it funny.
Yeah, they call you Jeff Bezos. I know. And how many times have you and I, after a long day where we have catered hand and foot to one friend, let's say we even then drop them off back home, we turn and look at each other. The kid didn't even say thank you.
That's right.
How many times have we had that feeling together? We're looking at each other like aghast.
No, that's after they spend the whole day with Ava in the pool. It's a steak dinner, ice cream. I mean, it's the 5-star treatment, and we still drive them back home to make it even easier for their parents. And as they leave the car, there's not even a thank you. It's incredible.
It's incredible. And I've got to the point where I start reprimanding the kids of other parents. I'm like, excuse me, what do you say? I'm just horrified. What do you say? I just catered to you all day. And what do you say? Oh, yeah, thank you. But I feel that it's thank you, not because it's a sincere thank you. It's thank you because, hey, I want these people to serve me again next time the same way.
Grace, let me ask you really, which is the theme of the show, really the question of the show. You have these laws now that are being put on the books in town after town, increasingly now state after state, predominantly blue states, but I think you're going to start to see them in some red states. New Jersey now is in the middle of this because the New York Post did a big article on it, where you have Gloucester Township. It's right near Philadelphia on the border between New Jersey and Pennsylvania. That town now has passed a new law that if your teenage son or daughter is arrested, say multiple times, for whatever it may be, dealing drugs, vandalism, something called immorality, which they don't really quite define, public drunkenness, whatever, stupid things that teenagers do, that not the first time, but by the second or third time, you, the parent, will be held not just civilly liable, but criminally liable. That you're looking at up to 90 days in prison and up to $2,000 fine. So, for example, if Ashton decided to vandalize the school, or if Ashton, was with his friends and they got drunk and whatever, vandalized or busted up a car, you would go to jail. I would go to jail. To me, that is a very dangerous precedent. It goes against personal responsibility. It strips away parental rights and parental authority. But that's me. Do you think it's fair that parents should be jailed or fined if their kids break the law?
Jeff, it is ridiculous. It is idiotic. This is a stupid idea because the point is you need to teach individuals to be accountable for their own actions. And it is as though saying, you're not really 100% responsible for what you did. Your parents are. So again, it's sending the message to these kids that they are not their own agent. They have to be taught from a very young age, you do this, there is a consequence. You do that, there is a consequence. And this is another form of the lack of socialization. Because at the root of it, we're seeing too many children who are not socialized, from the small actions to the large actions. And at the core of this, we have to teach them that your actions have an impact on everybody around you, and you will be held accountable for those actions, the good ones and the bad ones. And this is going in the opposite direction. Moreover, the parent, if they have more than one child and you take that parent away for 90 days, think of the chaos that you're going to cause in the family. So you're going to cause even more social disruption.
Grace, spanking. A lot of people have made the point today. Parents have had their hands tied by social workers, by the left, by liberals for decades now. You can't discipline your children. By the way, think about it. They're telling you how to discipline your child in your own home. You want to talk about Big Brother and government overreach, okay? But let that go. So you can't spank your child. You can't discipline your child. You can't even send your child to your room or, whatever, go to bed without dinner, because that's now a form of child abuse. So, okay, I can't discipline or spank my child, but now that my child is 15, 16, 17, now they're running wild. So now you want to send me to jail if they commit crimes or break the law or misbehave, but you tied my hands and prevented me from spanking and disciplining them when they were much younger. In other words, they want to have it both ways. My question to you, is part of this just a lack of discipline in the home?
Well, there is part of that. So, the famous saying, spare the rod, spoil the child. It looks like we should add spare the rod, spoil the child, and ruin your society. Because that's where we're headed right now. Because we have all these kids that are not properly socialized. And then think about what the children are being exposed to. They're being sexualized at a very early age, far too young for them to properly understand what they're being told. So they're being messed up from an early age, and we're not allowed to intervene in that, right? In many cases, there are laws which say that a child can choose their gender and the parent's not supposed to know about it. So the schools are actively denigrating the parental authority. And then at the same time, by the time they're grown up, now suddenly the parent is responsible for everything the child does. When their whole childhood, all you've done is tell the child that the parent's authority means nothing. Do you know how many conversations I've had with the kids saying, hey, I'm smarter than you. You got it? I know more than you. You got it? I'm wiser than you. Got it? This is my brain, and I draw a big circle, and this is your brain, and I draw a little circle. I'm sorry, because I don't feel often in discussions with them that they understand that I have a superior position. It's like a battle just to get that point across to them.
Or, they think they can call a social worker on you, or protective services, or DCF. No, really, I mean, don't you, you dare punish me? I'm gonna have you arrested. You spank me, I'm gonna have you arrested. So they're inundated with these ideas, mostly from their teachers and their schools and the culture, that they have rights that supersede those of the parents. And what you have done now is we've created these little entitled, narcissistic, self-absorbed little monsters. And little monsters grow up to be big monsters. All right, Dr. Grace, on that cheery note, Ashton and I are happy you're back from Portugal. 617-266-6868 is the number. Scott in Tingsboro. I know you've been holding patiently, Scott. Thanks and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, Scott.
So, I'm on a job site, so let me run right off the door real quick. So I'm in my mid-50s and back in my younger days, I had a juvenile record, and I don't know why the law is not more strict on the kids today, because I'm trying to make the story short, but I remember the judge saying, if I see you in here one more time, you're going away. And it kind of straightened me up a little bit, you know what I mean? Being that young and, hearing those words, go away, be taken away from home, kind of straightened me out. So I don't know why the laws are not more strict.
Scott, if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. I promise I won't be offended. But what were you in court for? What had you done?
Jeff, we did whatever it took to get the cops to chase us. We were just having fun. We weren't rude to anybody, but I'm one of the middle. I'm a middle child, whatever. I'm not using it for an excuse, but I was I was pretty hyper, and just my friends and I, we did it for fun. To us it was fun, but we were paying the price. And the other thing, Jeff, is the judge gave me 800 hours of community service because my mom couldn't pay the fine. So I don't know if that helps with straightening out the youth today.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Scott, if you don't mind me asking, because the argument that's being made and why they're pushing these laws is they're saying, well, if Scott was going around, say, vandalizing or, just causing public disorder and mayhem, that's because he had bad parents. That's because of bad parenting. That's why we should hold Scott's parents, say you apply the law retroactively to your time. They would say, well, no, Scott's mom should go to jail for 90 days or his father should go to jail for 90 days. Because if Scott is going around, with vandalizing or putting graffiti or misbehaving or causing problems for the police, that's because his parents did a horrible job raising him. They weren't tough enough. They didn't discipline him enough. They were essentially absentee bad parents. What say you?
I would say it's wrong against the parents because we knew, you're at that age where you knew you were doing something that's going to get you in trouble, and looking back at that, we went as far as we could, I guess. And it comes back to the law kind of straightened me out. And
so you're saying, Scott, you did not have bad parents. You didn't have parents that said, hey, Scott, do whatever you want. We don't care. You didn't have parents that said, Scott, you want to come home at 3 a.m, come at home at 3 a.m. Scott, you want to commit crimes? We don't care. You're saying you had parents that taught you right from wrong, did the best they could, and raised you properly and decently. You just thought it was fun, which, by the way, for many teenagers, they do find it fun. And you said, let me make some hay. Let me make some noise. Let me be a bit of a crap disturber, as they say. And, let me raise a ruckus. And you had a good time for a while until it ran out. Until your parents stepped in and the judge stepped in, correct?
Correct. Mostly, I was a big kid. I'm one of those, my mother was one of those parents where my mother would try to discipline me, and then, she had to work and take care of 4 kids, and, I got grounded here and there, but it wasn't, lockdown. You know what I mean?
I understand. No, look, Your mom did the best she could, obviously, and she raised you right. She raised you knowing right from wrong. She grounded you when she could, but after a while, you're a big kid, and unless you have a strong father figure in the home with a firm hand, boys in particular, 16, 17, 18 years old, they're like an unguided weapon. That's just a fact. And many of them will get into trouble. They do straighten out, like you, and they end up having a very successful, prosperous, meaningful life, but they have to get straightened out. That's the whole point. And you've nailed it. We used to have a much tougher juvenile system. Judges would exactly what you talked about. Now, look, I'm gonna punish you, But you do it again, I'm telling you, you're going away. And you're like, oh, what do you mean going away? You're going to go to jail for a long time. Do you understand? Like, it's going to change your life forever. So you better smarten up, kid. And usually they go, okay, whoa, it's not fun and games anymore. And usually it works. It snaps people into place. And that's what happened to you. And, I bet you're very successful, and I bet you do very well at construction, and I bet you're a wonderful family man, and I'm positive. So that's what I mean. They have no law and order. They're not punishing juvenile offenders. They are coddling the kids. They're tying the hands of parents. And then after they've destroyed everything, that's what these liberals have done, everything, now they want to try to blame the parents. So you won't put the juvenile in jail or whatever, community service or whatever, or military boot camp, or there's many ways you can do this. No, you won't inflict consequences on the minors that are committing these heinous crimes. But you're going to go after the parents, many of whom, as your mother, is literally doing the best she can and is working her rear end off to put food on the table. That's why, to me, this is disgusting. Now, if we don't stop this, I'm telling you, it's coming here. It's going to come to Massachusetts. It's going to come to New Hampshire. It's going to come to Rhode Island. It's going to come across New England. It's going to go across the Northeast. It's already in New Jersey. And you're going to see it in other places. They're experimenting with this in Minnesota, in Illinois, in Washington State, in Oregon. In other words, think about how pernicious, how dangerous this principle is. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from a very good friend of mine, very dear friend, huge supporter of the show, a Vietnam veteran, by the way, just an overall great guy. Okay, and a conservative's conservative. So I'm a little shocked at the text that he sent me because it's so unlike him. But then again, I go back to what I said in my opening monologue. We've all done stupid things or most of us have done stupid things as teenagers. That's just what teenagers do. They do stupid things. Well, my good friend is no exception. So listen to this. Jeff, when I was 14 years old, I was running with a bunch of jerks. We were having fun, but we were jerks. One night, we decided to tear down a fence for no reason at all. And the police arrested us. My dad arrived at the police station, looked at me in the cell, and said, quote unquote, lock him up. And then he went home. Spending a night in jail on a cold piece of concrete with a stale donut and cold coffee for breakfast before I had to go to court was all I needed to realize I had been an idiot. My father did the right thing. The judge gave me a year of probation and said I would go to jail if I ended up in his courtroom again. I've been a law-abiding good citizen ever since, and I thank my father for that moment of clarity. And then this is the thing he added after this. He said, Jeff, I don't think I've ever felt more embarrassed or ashamed in my whole life. It happens. That's why, again, I know his father was, this Bill, Smitty, as I call him. Smitty, I'm positive Smitty's father was a great dad. I'm positive his mother was a great mom. You couldn't, nobody's perfect, but you couldn't I'm sure you couldn't get better parents. They taught him right from wrong. They raised him right. They did everything right. And still, the teenagers are going to do stupid things. Now, imagine, let's, bring it up to today. And they happen to live in New Jersey in Gloucester Township. Suddenly, the father's facing 90 days in jail because his son hung out with a bunch of jerks, as he put it. And for the hell of it, hey, it sounds like a great idea at the time. They tore down. I'm sorry, it's funny. They tore down. I mean, it's not funny to the person that it's happening to, but it's just a funny story. They tore down a whole fence. And the cops caught him and they got arrested. I mean, and he's right. His father did the right thing. No, son, you're going to pay the consequences. and you keep doing this, this is the road you're going down. And that straightened him up, scared the bejesus out of him, scared the living daylights out of him. Now here, just one other very quick story. This happened to my son, supposedly from a good friend of his. And I told him, this is not much of a friend, but this is what I mean. This kid lives on our street. I'm not going to say the person's name, but those of you listening who live on my street, my neighborhood, you know exactly who this kid is. He is out of control. His parents never discipline him. They spoil him rotten. This kid thinks he can do whatever he wants with no consequences whatsoever. And one day, Ashton was coming back from school, and this kid runs inside the house, grabs his BB gun, listen to this, and shoots Ashton in the rear end, and then shoots Ashton again in the back of his leg. And he starts laughing. He thinks it's funny. He thinks it's funny. And Ashton ran home. And something was wrong. He was very upset at the dinner table, didn't say a word. And I go, Ashton, what's wrong? Son, I know something's wrong. Grace, Ashton, we know something's wrong. He wouldn't tell us for 24 hours. He felt so humiliated that this guy who we thought was his friend treated him like this. And then he didn't tell me, he told Grace. And then Grace told him to tell me. You could see the smoke coming out of my ears. I was really mad at that kid. And Ashton said, I spoke to him afterwards. I confronted him. I said, never do that again, or I'll never be your friend. He said, Dad, please, I'm begging you, don't go to his house. Don't tell his parents. I was going to tell his parents off. I swear to God, I was going to go and knock on the door and say, what kind of an animal are you raising here? Like, this guy's taking a BB gun and shooting my son in the ass? And you think that's funny? Your son thinks it's funny? And by the way, he's a jerk to everybody else on the street, just so that you know. So, Sandy's not very happy with she thinks I'm too lax when it comes to parenting my own kids. But anyway, because Ashton one time had a Swiss Army knife that I gave him, and we were traveling together, and the TSA found it in the luggage. So the TSA found the Swiss Army knife in Ashton's luggage. And they're like, what the hell is this? And they're like, well, my dad got it for me. Sandy's like, who buys their kid a Swiss Army knife? And who try to bring it on a plane? I go, look, Ashton likes the Swiss Army knife. No, you're right. I was the one that was pulled over. I'm sorry. You're right. I was pulled over by TSA. You're completely right, because I was carrying Ashton's Swiss Army knife where he inserted it in my luggage. But anyway, so she's like, she doesn't feel too much sympathy for me. But I'm like, your kid, imagine if you shot him in the head. You could have gouged his eyes out. You could have seriously maimed or hurt my son. Anyway, Ashton said to me, Dad, please, don't go. Don't confront the father. Don't confront the mother. I spoke to him. I told him I'm really upset with him. I'm disappointed. Apparently the kid apologized. Okay, so I let it go. But my point is, I'm telling you, I've been telling everybody this. This kid's going to end up in jail. This kid is going to end up, I'm telling you. And, he comes over to our house. And it's the winter time. We have a pool. And, of course, there's ice, on the pool. Right? It's full of ice on the pool. You know what this kid tells Ava and Ashton? Hey, let's all jump on the ice. And luckily, my two children went into the home and said, Dad, I don't want to say this kid's name. I'm just going to call him Bobby. Bobby says we should go on the ice. I'm like, over my dead body. You tell Bobby, get lost and go home. Because you're going to crack the ice and all three of you are going to go down into the water and you're going to drown and you're all going to be dead. This kid's an idiot. So I'm just telling you, there are some kids, bad influence, bad seed, bad parents, and if they don't turn things around, it's not going to end well for them. But, don't. To me, ultimately, it's up to the parents. You have to know how to raise your kid. And if your kid's walking around with a BB gun that you bought him and he's shooting people in the rear end, you got a problem. K-Train in Malden. Thanks for holding, K-Train, and welcome.
How you doing, my brother from another mother?
Good. I'm very good. How are you, K-Train?
Well, I'm enjoying this show because all those bad experiences, I was that horrible child.
Now, which one? Were you the one, the BB gun shooting like a kid in the rear end?
Oh, yeah. I lived across from a football field. Kids would try to put their bike over the fence. I would wait for them to get to the top of the fence, then shoot them in the ass, and they'd fall. But I also went on to become school committee member. But I was the custodian of the school beforehand and had a key to every classroom. Everyone today speaking is a little right, but we have...
Mike, really, I got to tell you, man, the power is really starting to get to your head, Mike. Okay, let's go right back to K-Train in Malden. K-Train, you were a bit of a troublemaker when you were a teenager. Please, K-Train, pick up where you left off.
The easiest way to describe it is I was the blonde kid from the Karate Kid. No exaggeration. Okay, but then I became the custodian, and then I became the school committeeman. So I had a key to every classroom. There should be a camera in every classroom. It's a public area, just like the train station. There's no legal right to say no. This is their worst nightmare, is a camera in every classroom. And then you could see what your child's doing in class. Your child gets 2 felonies, maybe the second one should be on you. But there's plenty of technology to give the parents tools. Right now, we got a senator who's trying to take cameras out of every kid's. Why does he want to do that? So no one knows what's going on in these schools. They're public areas, a camera in every classroom. I know that girl, Lisa from Malden, would love that. She would prosper with that.
I agree, K-Train. I completely agree. I think it's a great suggestion. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I would go cameras in the classroom, cameras in the hallway, cameras in the cafeteria, cameras outside in the schoolyard, cameras on the bus, the school bus. People behave like idiots now on the school bus. I would have cameras in terms of school, I'd have them everywhere. See how your child is behaving. And honestly, see what these poor teachers and principals have to deal with on a daily basis. And then they can point to you and say, hey, look, we have the footage. Look at your child. Look how your child's behaving. That's your child throwing an eraser at my head. That's your little Jimmy. Honestly, maybe Mike is laughing, but maybe have the teachers wear body cameras. I mean, if the cops have to wear them, let the teachers wear them. Not because they're doing anything wrong, but this is a day in my life as a teacher. And and say, you think you're doing a good job parenting? Take a look at what your child becomes when the moment they come onto school grounds. And honestly, I think parents are going to be ashamed when they say, what? So I've told Ashton and Ava over and over again, you better not get in trouble. I said, if you get in trouble with them, it's nothing compared to the trouble you're going to get at home with mommy and especially with Big Daddy. Okay? Mommy is going to soften you up for me. And so I always tell them this. I don't care if you get an A, a B, a C. I don't like a D because to me that means you're not working hard. But I said, look, I don't care what your grades are as long as I see that you're working hard and you're trying your best. So don't complain to me about pressure. There's no pressure. I just want you to do your homework and pay attention in class. But what I will not accept is you misbehaving in the classroom or disrespecting your teacher or, God forbid, fighting or causing problems or being a bully or anything like that. So I've laid down very clear markers for them. And it will not be accepted. And I tell them this, they better not complain. Because if mommy's mad, I'm mad. And you don't want me mad. So, K-Trent, I think it's a great idea. A great idea. K-Train, as always, thank you very much for that call. Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome. Bruce, buddy, my friend, what do you make of this? The Moonbats now want to put parents in jail if their kids break the law. What say you?
They're out there like Pluto. But, Jeff, listen, my main thing is these teachers in these schools, they've taken away the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. They've taken away silent prayer. They've taken away everything. And now these kids are running rampant. Now, I got everybody beat that have talked about what they did for trouble. I say bring back the woodshed because I went through it. But when I got to be 15, the woodshed wasn't. My father didn't paddle me with the razor strap when I deserved it, and I would have been John Dillinger. But I blew up a mailbox, Jeff, when I was 15 years old because they burnt our fort down in the woods. And the FBI picked me up at Mahoney's Rocky Ledge, and they were like the Blues Brothers. They were like dressed men in black. They came and scoffed me up, Jeff. And when they drove me to the house, and I saw the state police. I saw Woburn police, the chief of police, and then I saw my father's car. And that was the biggest scare for me.
It wasn't the FBI. It wasn't the state police. It was your father's car.
Because he had top security clearance. He was on all the intercontinental missile ballistic programs with Draper Labs. He raised 6 kids, and he was going to lose his job because his son. I blew up a mailbox, Jeff.
Oh no, Bruce, I'm sorry. I thought you were just mad because your fault, like me. I mean, if I was arrested by the FBI, I wouldn't be worrying about the FBI or the state police. I'd be like, my dad's going to kill me. No, I didn't know that angle. About top security clearance and he'd lose his job. Luckily, everything turned out okay, Bruce, and you certainly turned out okay.